Hi there, Cosmo family. My name is Yalial, and I am here today to talk about the full moon in Libra that we are going to have on April 1st or 2nd, depending on where you are. This full moon happens in the degree 12 with 21 minutes of Libra. So all the cardinal signs and people that have planets close to this mathematical degree, 4 degrees before and after, are going to feel it strongly, but also fixed signs because we have an aspect that is part of this lunation that is going to be powerful. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and the fixed signs Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, Taurus are also going to feel them, especially fixed signs that have planets in the first degrees. Basically, all of us are going to feel the energy of this full moon because we all have these signs in some part of our natal chart. So from yesterday, this lunation was activated, and it is charged with many aspects in tension. So this is a phase where something is illuminated that concludes a cycle. And when we talk about the energy of Libra, the ruler is Venus and invokes what represents beauty for us, peace, harmony, balance, justice. And with this lunation, it could be put in evidence what is out of balance right now, what is a priority to attend, to create discernment between what is truly important from the energy that perhaps we could invest in certain experiences as a resistance to break with that false harmony. The balance is an oscillatory dynamic among apparent opposites. I am referring that when we are positioning ourselves in an extreme of a thing, whether this is a relationship or other situations, the experience itself is inviting us to make this registration of what the outside is reflecting inside. This means doing this recognition of what can truly take us to this genuine inner peace, because the harmony that Libra symbolizes cannot depend that on that life has to stay in a fixed point, never changing, or that the exterior, the external is constantly what we desire, because many times what we desire, it is emerging from a limitation of our perception and not from what truly can impulse evolution. So this is more about a registration of what we need emotionally, which is the moon, and in other orders to generate this balance and to be more fair with ourselves and with what surrounds us. Fair as, being just. Justice, we have to understand again this justice of Libra as an energetical oscillation of the cosmos, as a scale that is showing us what our energy is generating and what our responses are generating in the face of the things that are happening. I am referring that this is not coming from a moral, a cultural moral of humans. Many of us could be in agreement that the loss of the innocent people in the armed conflicts are not fair. But on the other side, there is the painful manifestation of the lack of integration of the collective and individual shadow of the internal and external conflicts that we are sustaining. So the imbalance, going to the other polarity, it is an aspect that is inherent. I don't know if I'm inventing that word, but it is part of the path. And there are different ways of transiting it. We could produce imbalance by decisions that are coming from unconscious aspects of ourselves that we are perpetuating and that they are going to have a manifestation in reality. Imbalance could come from the outside because life is impulsing us to a new movement that perhaps we weren't able to discover other way. Or we could generate that consciously. Dynamics that we are impulsing that perhaps are going to break with a way in which we were sustaining balance, but precisely because there is an awareness that they were turning into something that doesn't propose growth. And this pseudo and this false harmony that it is making noise inside is already an imbalance. So the challenge with this lunation that is in attention with Jupiter in Cancer is that, many times we could inhabit these dynamics that are familiar, that are known, and that we accept on one side because we don't want to deal with conflicts, because facing the conflict is truly facing an aspect of us that is out of balance or is unconscious, and we are resistant to do that. Or backwards, for other people, the familiar dynamic could be always confronting something, always forcing situations to be whatever thing they want them to be. So facing the conflict there, it is not to keep externalizing with those actions, but taking responsibility of what is happening inside and what those situations are reflecting inside, to not react in a way that is excessively aggressive and dysregulated. So this is very, very important. So naturally, people are going to be very focused in things that are related to relationships, precisely to bonds. Not only, we are not talking only about a partnership, a couple, but other person that is reflecting those internal aspects and ways that we are bonding with ourselves or with life. Or could even be a manifestation that is testing us in the case that we have been doing a conscious labor over something, related to this. But also other forms of imbalance could be shown that are indicating what we need to change. So the lunation, as I was saying, is given with the Sun in Aries. We can't have full moon in Libra without Sun in Aries, in a conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, both in opposition with the moon, and Sun and Moon in a T square, that is the name of the configuration, with Jupiter in Cancer. So it keeps reactivating this conjunction Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And on the other side, a T square is an aspect that proposes tension, conflict, pressure, but also dynamism, that is forcing us to generate this change, or to the transcendence of a conditioning that generates the perception of blockage in our path. And coming back to what I said 1 minute ago, with Jupiter in Cancer, we are talking about dynamics or internal aspects, or could be also limitant beliefs that we have incorporated of our family, of our culture, and that we are using as an area of security, of protection, but at the same time they create a barrier to expand. For example, a limitant belief could be it is not possible to grow doing what really brings plenitude to your life, or it could respond to other things that are preventing from emotional development and emotional nutrition. For example, I am only going to be loved if I give to other people without limit. So that could be another limitant belief. So for some people, literally, this could be reflected in relationships with members of the family, which could be the literal manifestation of Jupiter in Cancer. But for other people, the role they have occupied in their familiar system, or the conditionings acquired from what they experimented there and in the past, right now could be exposed in a visible way, and perhaps not the most comfortable one, so we can change something. It is also important to comment that in this kind of configurations, it also ends up participating the fourth cardinal sign, which is Capricorn, because all that tension that generate the other three, Aries, Libra, and Cancer, it is finding this point, this projection right there. This means that both the self-exigency, the rigidity, the fear of not being capable or not being enough, or taking charge of situations that are not corresponding, could be something that is manifested, or on the contrary, the rejection of Capricorn, the absence of responsibility that many times is produced because there is a guilt, there is a guilt that is not faced, and this could produce falling in a polarity of victimism. So these factors, if they appear, of course, are things that we need to observe. But if we truly have the courage to do what our soul is calling us to do right now, Jupiter in Cancer, opportunities are opening, doors of expansion. We could feel abundant and being grateful for what we do with our projects. We could create an inner home that we give access to people that truly have the intention to care and to nourish it. Or for the people that are very closed, because this could be also a shadow of Cancer. Well, it could be more about this openness to experiences and to stop losing life for fear of suffering. So with this influence of the sun together with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, this is speaking of the I, of how we need to exercise our identity, individual identity, to open paths of the soul, Neptune right now. All of this in opposition to the Moon in Libra, that is speaking of the registration of the other, the consideration, reciprocity, sharing. And well, each one of us has to observe their own tendencies. I am referring that there could be people that possess these conditionings that are more linked with emotional dependency, and that they are making the others the center of their lives, and they put themselves aside, or tolerating circumstances that they don't want to tolerate to keep, this pretended peace, or taking charge again, this is the shadow of Saturn, of circumstances of other people that are not corresponding. So those people are going to feel the pressure to develop greater independence, assuming leadership of their own lives and establish healthy boundaries. People that are too self-absorbed, or perhaps they are not being that are not considering other people, or not having the will of sharing. I mean, there is this closeness. It is not closeness. They are close to the exchange, the energetical exchange, as a form of defense or protection, or they are losing themselves on the over focalization of their desires, and perhaps they could be not taking respectful actions towards other people. They are also being called to observe and modify. And truly, if one of these polarities manifested, the other also too, because the other two, because for example, if a person has fear to begin their independent project because Saturn, the person doesn't feel capable to do it, it is very probable that that person is ending up putting that energy that is not putting in the project in relationships or dynamics with other people that are not actually contributing with their path, as a way of evading himself or herself, which is the shadow of Neptune. And not caring with that independent project is a form of selfishness, because the person, which is the shadow of Aries, because that person is not sharing with the world what they came here to do. But we could also put the backwards example. A person that is in a relationship that is in a great imbalance, so the relationship is taking all their energy. Well, that person is not going to be capable of taking care of their own emotional needs, of other projects, and even of other relationships that are part of their growth. So all of these are actually forms of selfishness that we could exercise with ourselves, but could also have manifestations in behaviors on the outside, or leading us to force other people to behave, act, or do whatever thing we want, because we are not taking responsibility of our decisions and boundaries. It is about demanding in other areas of life, or demanding other people things that we are not developing, or we are not capable of giving yet, because we are not making coherent decisions. So all of this is increased because the ruler by that moment, the ruler is Venus, by that moment is going to be in Taurus, in a square with Pluto in Aquarius. So a few days later is going to perfect harmonic aspects with the karma nodes. But I'm going to comment about this square with Pluto shortly, because, well, this is a very intense aspect of death and transformation, of facing our own darkness, facing the pain, the traumas, and the patterns that weren't managed, that many times lead us to obsession, to wanting to manipulate, control, possess. And when whatever of these dynamics is being expressed in the case of Venus in Taurus, is because programs are preventing us from perceiving our own value, observing with awareness what is truly bringing stability, whether this is material or in a relationship, because both of them are linked with Venus. which things are not have no sense to try to control because it is not possible, or which perceptions are generating the sensation that we are being controlled, or threatened of distraction. There are threaten our sense of security. Perhaps all of those things could be activated, so we can make this purge and letting go of the resistance to what right now needs to die and to change. As also behaviors or decisions that could respond to a lack of honesty and authenticity with oneself and with the others in the end, and that are related to, to be actually in an opposition to our desires of the soul. And we could exercise this for fear to lose, for fear of losing a person, for fear of losing material possessions, because Venus in Taurus is also very related to this. There are other aspects, but I'm only going to mention the last one today, which is the trine between Mercury in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer. This is the third time that this happens because Mercury was retrograde. And so in February and March, they made this aspect, but this is the one that closes the cycle. So there could be a dream, there could be a desire of the soul, a calling, a decision that we have reevaluated, that we already thought, that we have already connected. And it is not being born from this optimism and denial of reality, which is one of the shadows of both of them, Jupiter in Cancer and Pisces, the energy of Pisces, attaching ourselves to an illusion. This actually comes from a profound listening to our intuition. And well, if you have been making a path in coherence with yourselves, well, this could manifest a result, an opportunity, a conversation, a communication as an indicator of that inner growth. But if you haven't done that, then this is the chance to align yourselves with that and to use this as a key to grow. So I'm going to close this video today. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.